Creatives come in all different types. Artists, writers, musicians, video game designers, and we've all got one huge thing in common. Blocks. Writer's block, art block, whatever you want to call it, it is that feeling that you want to create. You've got time to create, but you're just not doing it. And trust me, this happens to me. Even on this channel, I could get script block or art block or editing block when I don't know what to do with what I've already filmed. And what I've done is I have come up with a 5-step process that helps me get past those creative blocks. And I will share that with you guys while using this little pixel art painting I did as my example. Let's do it. Hey guys, I'm Andrew Robinson of Robinson Pixels. Let's jump into that first block busting tip. Use a prompt. This is kinda where I live. I'll do draw this in your style challenges, month-long prompt lists, art jams, all that stuff. And it's not like art is the only one that has this sort of thing too. There are 30-day novel competitions, game jams, weekly music contests. What I like about prompt lists and challenges is they usually give you a specific prompt that you're trying to go for, some rules as a guide. If there's one thing I love, it is rules and instructions. That was really cool in school. I mean, there's a big difference between staring at a blank page and not knowing what to do versus staring at a blank page and knowing you're gonna draw a deer lady carrying books in the snow. But sometimes it doesn't work and the muse doesn't come knocking, like with this most recent challenge. It was for the Game Boy Pixel Art Jam 2024. It had plenty of rules, chief of them being that you had to choose one of 4 color palettes, and each palette only had 4 colors. I went with Mangavania because it was wildly outside of my comfort zone. But the thing that wasn't clicking with me with this jam was the prompt. Color. Color? I've only got 4 colors here. How am I supposed to make a color-themed thing with 4 colors? So in this case, I was actually getting my art block from the prompt itself. So here's my second tip, and I use this all the time. I honestly don't know why more people don't talk about it. That is to never start from scratch. You see, people have a fear of that blank page, right? And it can be for a lot of reasons. It could be decision paralysis. I really think it usually boils down to perfectionism. Like what you have in your head might be really great, or you want to do something really great, and as soon as you actually make the art or write the book or whatever, it might suck. That is a legitimate possibility, and it's easier to just not do the thing. So here's what I do. I don't start from a blank page. Even on this channel, I never start a YouTube script from scratch. I actually pull up last week's video, make a copy of that, and then just delete big chunks of it as I go. I leave in a little rough outline, so I'll remind myself to say, like and subscribe, or comment below, which, hey, it'd be cool if you liked and subscribed or commented below. And in art, it really helps to just have something on the page. With this one, I started out just slapping down colors in Procreate. I don't even do pixel art in Procreate, I use Pixaki, but this gave me a chance to experiment without even feeling any pixel pressure. So without having a subject, I played around with the color combinations. What could be my background? What colors look good next to each other? What makes one color pop, and does it pop in every circumstance? I don't even really like the color combo in this last one, but I liked the concept. A little dude with a paintbrush who is maybe painting the world to prevent others from erasing it. Before I could talk myself out of it, I hopped into Pixaki and started testing out pixel versions of this idea. Are there any color combinations that work where the character and the background could look good? Can I give him any amount of depth, and is that a good direction? I landed on a style that could work for this little dude, but I was still struggling with figuring out what the actual picture could be, right? Like, what's he doing? What's the world look like? All that kind of stuff. So I followed the next tip, which is to walk away. Now, if you're working on a tight deadline, you might feel like you can't do this, but like, you can, for a couple of minutes. Some of the best ideas I've ever had were just walking out to check the mail, or in the shower, and in this case, while I was washing the dishes. So while I was scrubbing, I was thinking, I don't want to design a scene for this guy. I'm not feeling it. That's not what I want to do. I just want to draw a picture. And so does this guy. The first thing I did when I sat back down was draw a canvas for him, so he could be painting. At first, I thought maybe there could be a big paint tube kind of resting on the side, which I think is artistically neat, but I couldn't figure out how to pull that off, so that won't last. But the important thing was just conceptually making sure this could work. So I scribbled in a rough sunset over the sea. Yeah, this is starting to be a real possibility. And since I couldn't make that bottle work, I added in a color palette just over here, which actually I think looks a lot better. I'll refine it more later as usual, but I just need stuff to refine. No matter what, if I'm gonna pull this image off, we have to assume that we're looking at this canvas from a top-down view. So our little guy is gonna need a completely different sprite, right? He's not top-down, and I've never done this before. I have to figure out how to do that, which means it's time to get into our next big creative block-busting tip: use references. References should be a huge part of your process, no matter what type of creative you are. Not everything has to come fresh out of your brain, you need inspiration. If you like working with movies, for example, go read the script to The Matrix. I mean it. The movie opens up with a black screen and a blinking green cursor. So if I had been the one who were writing the script, I probably would have written black screen with a blinking green cursor, right? But they didn't do that. What the script says is fade in on computer screen. So close it has no boundaries. A blinking cursor pulses in the electric darkness like a heart coursing with phosphorus light, burning beneath the derma of black neon glass. Whoa! The Wachowskis didn't have to go that hard, but they did. Because they weren't just describing what the camera sees, they were describing what the camera feels. This is a pro-level script, and if we want to be like the pros, we need to be studying how they do things to figure out how we can do things. So who did I learn from? I brought in a sprite from the first Nintendo Zelda game, so I could size my lil dude similarly, and try to understand how to make a top-down character. But as I drew, I thought maybe I could do better than just a tiny man on my canvas. So I started testing out a cartoony frog guy, and then I went straight into a more realistic frog. At first, my wife said it looked like a crab, and she was right. So I switched references to learn from Frogger. Of course, Frogger is its own thing, so this really became a personal challenge to create my own top-down frog that doesn't look like a knockoff. Another thing about references is that without this one, I would have thought the sun's reflection would be symmetrical, but for whatever reason, it actually usually kind of spreads out from the top, like a triangle. Now by this point, the deadline was just a few hours away, and it's only at this sort of time frame that you should consider the final tip: power through, mindfully. At some point, you gotta finish your projects. You have probably heard the phrase, finished is better than perfect, and I 100% stand by that. I spent a month on my first long-form YouTube video, but I haven't spent more than a week editing any of the rest. If I'd taken a full month to develop every single one of them, I'd be on my 6th video right now, instead of my 25th. I'm not saying that everything has to be a rush job, or even that this is a healthy pace for everyone. What I am saying is that it is kind of difficult to make it through projects if you don't finish your projects. So in order to knock this one out, I drew a ship on the horizon. I've done a similar picture before, but with the moon instead, so I almost talked myself out of it. But if Van Gogh can paint a whole series of sunflowers, I can draw an 8-bit ship on the horizon 2 whole times. I decided to change our frog into a crab, because ever since my wife told me he looked like one, I couldn't get it out of my head. And that made more sense for a crab to want to paint the sunset. Maybe he saw this ship on the horizon one day, thought it was beautiful, and now he's eager to share that image with us. Aw, thanks little guy. In fact, he's so eager that he's painting it with his own claw, because he's too small to hold onto a paintbrush. This next is actually my very favorite part of this whole picture, and it's where really the mindfulness, even during powering through, comes in. Remember back at the very start when I was just brainstorming concepts? I had this one with random footprints, and now I can use that idea, because these are obviously paint footprints from an eager little crab who's maybe a little messy. I've never had so much fun messing up my own picture in my entire life, which also led to me making some imperfections along the edges of his painting. I figure he thinks this part will be covered by a frame or something once he's finished with it, or maybe he doesn't even notice, he's just having a good time, and so was I. Throw in a watercolor paintbrush, or my best version of one with this limited palette, and then some clouds, and we've got ourselves a finished product. Once you've gotten through your creative block, you may still find yourself struggling with designing the characters themselves. If that's the case, I've got a video on mastering character design right over here. See ya! 5 simple steps that helps me bust my blocks.